Good morning, everyone. I think we're in, is it week 10 or week 11? But anyway, we're starting off on a beautiful sunny day with our Motivation Monday. And in fact, it's our speaker today who inspired Monday motivation sessions, because I thought I'd love to get him to come and talk to everyone we know. And so it's taken about 6 weeks on the calendar, but we've got him here at last. And it's fantastic to have him with us today. So our speaker today, Manley Hopkinson. A colourful career, learning all sorts of things from all sorts of people, and very generous to share that with us, with the biggest message of all around compassionate leadership. So if I'll pass over to your good self, feel free to go on to Speak of You, and then you'll see him and see what he has to share, and look at the chat section, and don't forget the questions. So over to your good self, Manny.
Lovely, thanks, Jonathan. Good morning, all. It's a beautiful sunny day where I am down in Hampshire. In fact, too sunny, and so I do have a tissue. I've got a bit of hay fever now and again, so I'll try not to sneeze, and I'll keep it under control for the next half an hour. I want to talk about commitment, and the title I've called it is The Source and Power of Commitment. So where does commitment come from? And once we have commitment, how can we use it? Because if we're doing this from a leadership perspective, then I firmly believe that the outcome of leadership has got to be to gain commitment with the people you're working with. And even if we're not doing it as a leader, if we're thinking about ourselves, well, then surely we want to go through a life with commitment, which is the key element. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to share a bit of a story. So I've got I've got a PowerPoint that I want to share with you. So hopefully you can see that now. You might see my whole screen. I'm not quite sure, but let's just put it in the right mode. About the source and power of commitment, which is the key thing. And to help sort of bring this alive, I'm going to share a story with you. And a story some of you may have heard when I did do a talk when I first met Jonathan up in a fantastic little pub, and Erica was there too, which is great, and a few others, which is nice. And the story I'm going to share just for a few minutes. And I've got a question, 3 questions for you whilst we're in the story. Sorry, 3 questions for you whilst we're in the story. So you will need a pen and paper. And this was when I was skippered in a boat in a race around the world. And so what I'm going to do, clearly I can't tell you the whole story. The story itself, and there are so many little bits that I learned about life, was amazing. So just one little part, which I'm going to share today. But first of all, I need to tell you about the race itself and what happened, what made it unique. It was known as the world's toughest yacht race, and going round the world the wrong way. And thinking, well, what does that mean? 32,000 miles going towards the west, against the wind, against the current, against all the prevailing winds. And that's why it's the toughest yacht race. Now, the little story I'm going to share today happened right down in the middle of the Atlantic in an area of the world known as the Hurricane Belt. So you guessed it, the story today is about a hurricane. Now, what also made the race extraordinary were the boats. The boats were identical. There are 12 of them, 72-foot, 40-ton steel yachts. There's no difference from one boat to the other, even down to things like knives and forks and cups and bowls. So the competitive advantage then, by definition, was this crew here. And this team here were extraordinary. Now, I'm not sure how many hardened international global sailors there are amongst the audience today. And if you have been around the world a couple of times, then drop a line and let me know, that's fine. But on my crew, none of them were hardened, experienced sailors. In fact, 8 of my crew had never sailed before in their life. And they're about to undertake the world's toughest yacht race. So this is entirely around attitude, not ability. And you know what? It's something I firmly and absolutely positively believe in. I'd rather have a boatload of people with no skill but great attitude than people with great skill and poor attitude. Because if you've got the right attitude, skill can come, teamwork comes, collaboration comes, it's all there. So this is my incredible team. So, you know, I want you to join me on this journey as well as we go forward. And we set sail with great endeavor and great intent. We didn't say we wanted to win. We actually had a bigger statement around growing as humans, as individuals, growing as a team, doing the best we possibly can, which is a key element. But we want to be the first boat into every harbor. Now, as we set sail, we came together really strongly as a team. Arrived in Boston. There's another story I'll share another day with you around what happened on that particular leg of the race. And then we started heading south, as you saw on that particular journey. As the team were building and growing stronger, we knew there were days where there'd be absolutely no wind at all, and that would be tough. But before we get there, there's just, you know what? I want you to join me. I want you to pretend that you're with me on this yacht sailing around the world. Now, the hats you're going to wear now is a sailor's hat. Now, you may be thinking, Manley, that's ridiculous. I would never go sailing, not even on a pond. I don't care. So just for a few moments in your life, join me on this incredible journey around the world. My team of 8 people who've never sailed before. So if you've never sailed before, brilliant. You are perfectly well qualified to do this. All of you, by definition, are thought leaders in your own space. You have an interest in your own growth, your own learning. Otherwise, you wouldn't be here. So with that philosophy in mind, I want you to join me. Imagine now you're with me. We're on the boat. We haven't quite left Southampton yet. We've got a few little questions to go through first. And I'm going to ask you 3 questions now. So this is where you'll need your pen and paper. The first question I'm going to ask is around you as an individual. And I want you to put the title down saying me. And the question is this really: if you're going to invest this much time and effort in your life, what do you want to take away for yourself? So I want you to just spend a few seconds just reflecting, thinking, bloody hell, I'm going to sail around the world with Manley. What do I want to take away for myself? And when you're happy that you captured a few thoughts, it would also be nice if you, when you've completed your own bit of writing, just to put a few in the chat box as well and just share a little bit about what you've said you wanted for yourself. So let's capture your own notes first, because that's the most important bit of our little session today. If you're going to invest this much time in your life, what do you want to take away for yourself? Okay. Let's move on to the second question then. Second question, use the title team on this one. So the first question is about you and your selfish takeaway. The team is quite simply, how will we work together on the yacht? So you're with me, it's sailing around the world together. This is the crew. What is important about how we work together? And same as before, once you've captured your notes, make sure you capture your bit first. That's really key. Then just share a little bit on the chat on the side and just see what words other people have down too as well. So the first one was your selfish takeaway. The second one is how we are going to work together on this yacht as we race around the world, 32,000 miles for 9 months of our life. How exciting is that? I can't wait to go. And then the third question, the last question I'm going to ask you, if you sort of put race down as the title for this. So the first one is what's in it for you. The second question was how we're going to work together. The third one is quite simply, what do you want to achieve? And just make some notes about what's important for you, about what we achieve as a team. Okay, I just want you to hold those questions for a moment and your answers as well. Again, put them in the chat box as much as you want to share. Put in the chat on the side, because what I want to do is take you sailing. Because now we have this principle, and I did this exercise, by the way, with my team before we left Southampton, and I'll explain why it is so important in a minute. Because as we set sail and headed south, by definition, you get days when there's no wind at all. But you've heard the expression about the calm before the storm. Well, guess what? It's a reality. And only a couple of days after this picture was taken, we found ourselves in the eyes of a hurricane. In fact, not quite in the eyes of a hurricane. This is the build up to it all. And we had a notice came through on the boat telling me that a hurricane was forecast in my area. Quick look exactly where it was, 35 degrees north, 60 west. There's no way we're going to avoid Hurricane Michael. We're definitely going to bump into the hurricane. So now I, as a skipper, who have the responsibility, the lives of my team, need to know more information. So what's the wind strength? Gusting to 75 knots. That's 90-mile-an-hour wind. That is just extraordinary. And if that's the wind, well, what are the waves? Extremely rough, within 100 nautical miles, phenomenal. Now, phenomenal is just, you can get a 100-foot wave, and a 100-foot wave in its own right, and by the way, this is the yacht in the background, you can see it. A 100-foot wave is fine in its own right, but a phenomenal wave is an extra 30 feet on top, which is a breaking rolling crest. One more line saying errors may be large. In other words, we are running into this little baby here, which is Hurricane Michael, and I've got the lives of my team. Very briefly, I didn't want my team to be afraid of Hurricane Michael. So I spoke about the fact that if we could attack the hurricane, if we could go in a really aggressive stance and go towards the eye of the hurricane, but come in on the side and come out, then we'll come out in first place. And I also spoke about the fact that this gave us a chance as a team to strongly come together. This was our opportunity as a team to prove to the world and to each other just how strong we were. Some of my crew needed an influence in the moment. And so we gathered a small navigational team, and they were the ones who monitored all the weather, monitored the pressure, monitored the wind and the direction, that helped me navigate in this particular race. So we're tapping into these key 3 motivational needs of achievement, affiliation, and influence. We actually attacked Hurricane Michael. 8 of my crew had never sailed before in their life, and we attacked a hurricane. Here's just a short 1-minute little video to give you an idea. Storms do blow themselves out, as this one did almost 3 days later. And what was fantastic, that I overheard a conversation in the middle of the night, and the first night out, and 2 of my crew were trying to go faster. They weren't afraid of Hurricane Michael. And what was lovely also is when the clouds had gone and the dust had settled, we came out of Hurricane Michael in first place. So what did we learn from this? And what did we learn from those 3 questions? Well, let me just take you back to some of the psychology behind what it is around the source of commitment. And this is a principle about how we define our own character. There was an old Jesuit saying, give me a child to the 8 and I'll give you the adult. What we mean by this, in these first few years of life, 0 to 4 and 4 to 8, is when we deal with everything that's going on in the world, refine it and come out with our own values set. Your character is set at 8 years old. There's a slight malleability around the teenage years as we readjust into an adult world, but nothing should change. We should live our life close to that blue line. Around 8 years old, though, a tragedy unfolds as we realize we are being judged, and so we get dragged further and further away from who we really are by strong influencing cultures. Take it too far, and actually you cannot fulfill self-worth. Self-worth is self-respect and self-esteem. And if that gap is too much, we're in internal conflict, and roughly midlife sometimes we get in crisis points out of control. We're desperate to rejoin that line. We don't want that though. We want to create moments of awareness, and through that moments of awareness, conscious compromise. Conscious compromise is the source of commitment. And let me explain how that fits in, because this is what we did on that particular map there. The me, the team, and the BT Global Challenge reflection was this. I asked you an incredible question to reflect upon. And no matter what part of the line you're on, whether you're on the red line at all, a long way up the red line or a short way, unless you've sailed around the world before, you don't have experience of that. And so your brain instantly took you back down to that blue line to reflect on what's important to you. The words you've just come up with reflect your 8-year-old self, your child, what is key to you. The me and the team ones around the environment we want to work. You wrote words like to sense of achievement, sense of reflection, to sense of pride, and about collective terms and how we come together. The race one shared about your core motivational need between achievement, affiliation, and influence. Then all we have to do to create collective commitment is simple, really. If we can see our life's journey, that blue line, either within or through the organization we're aligned to, that is the principle of commitment. And the organization ambition for my yacht was to attack Hurricane Michael. If we find ourselves outside of this, well, we can only comply. And if we don't know who we are at a deep emotional level, again, compliance is the only course to us. So what we need to do is come up with moments of awareness to delete the question mark, and then just map ourselves into the direction in which we're going. And this is the principle, once again, of what we've just done, what we did with our team. So commitment comes, well, from you. The source of commitment is deep inside ourselves at a deep psychological level. It's my 8-year-old child is that source. And the power of commitment, well, the power of commitment means that you can attack a hurricane. And that's the principle. So there we have it, team. Simple as that. I'm going to stop sharing my screen now. We can ask some questions and see where we are. Let me just get out of that particular view. And just look at all the words. Yeah, Charlie, thank you for that. Manny, you do this for fun, I see. This is a question there.